Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, Matt LaFleur has been on a bit of a media tour, it would seem. He's been on at least 3 different shows, so thought we'd get caught up on some of the stuff that he had to say. Before we get there, it looks like all the proposals, well, the Lions' proposal to change the structure of the postseason was withdrawn by the Lions. I don't know any further details on that. They're just like, nah, never mind. I'm guessing there was maybe such little support that they were like, let's not even bother. And then the Green Bay Packers' proposal to ban the tush push, or their revised version of that, also failed to get the 75% approval, so that also will not be banned. That play will continue. I think like most people, are tired of talking about the tush push thing, probably about to the point of being tired of talking about the playoff thing, although obviously not super thrilled with I didn't expect it to necessarily be done soon. I feel like it's one of those things, it's in the conversation. We'll continue the conversation. This year, somebody's going to get in that shouldn't. It's going to flare up, and then we'll talk about it again. And it's one of those things that'll get shot down and shot down and shot down until people get pissed enough about some team that got in that shouldn't, and then it'll just get pushed through. Unless there's some other major barrier that I'm missing. But that's usually what causes these big changes is, all right, something pretty drastic happened, and everybody's mad at me, so let's change it. I did want to talk a little bit about the tush push thing, because I just don't genuinely understand something, and I've kind of talked about it before, but there is a theory floating around that seems to be kind of just common knowledge at this point, that the tush push was basically foisted upon the Packers, as in a lot of people wanted it to happen, and they were like, hey, Green Bay, would you mind doing it for us? I genuinely don't understand the thought behind that, though. Andrew Brandt says, using the no-owner Packers as a stalking horse for this was, in my opinion, diabolically strategic. Ross Uglum said the Packers are making the proposal because they don't have a single owner and their team president is on the way out, so the multiple owners that want to ban the play don't have to put their name on it. Here's my issue. You do have to put your name on it. You're voting whether you want it banned or not, and if you want it banned, you have to vote yes. So why does it matter who proposes it if you're going out publicly saying, yes, we think this play should be banned? Do you understand the logical gap that I'm missing here? Are we saying that there's some massive difference between saying I want it banned and being the one that proposed it? Like, hey, we think it should be banned, and somebody else says, me too, but don't be mad at me because they said it first. Like, what? I mean, you can't have like 7 different teams saying, Green Bay, can you propose this? None of us are going to vote for it because we don't want them to know that it was us that did it. But you go ahead and propose it. Okay, but if you don't vote for it, it's not going to pass. So, yeah, I guess I don't care that much, but I don't understand what the claim is. Every single team that wants it banned has to put their name down and say, we are voting to ban this play. So I don't understand. All right, why don't we jump into this one I've been hanging on to for a while, so we'll start with this one. He did a sit down. This would have been, I guess, just a couple days ago with Chris Sims. So, as per usual, a lot of stupid questions that we're going to avoid. He did start off talking about his haircut and all that, and I know that was a topic on Packernet After Dark, but I don't think we're going to play that. Skip down a little ways here. Some talk about Detroit.
Right, I bet it is. So week 1 with that Lions game, I'm just interested in your thought here. Yeah, it's great Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are gone, okay, because we know they're really good. But does that necessarily mean it's easier for you? I know NFL coaches. You guys kind of you'd rather the known than the unknown. And now you're going to go, wait, how are they attacking me with this new look? Does that make things a little more confusing with that week 1 matchup?
Oh, absolutely. You might as well throw all the tendencies out the window.
Right.
So,
right.
And I'm sure each coordinator is going to have his own wrinkle. And the bottom line is you just got to be ready to adjust in game. I think just generally speaking, going into week one, there's going to be unscouted looks. So you better have a plan where your players are very comfortable that no matter what presents itself, that they're confident that they know the rules and can go out there and execute at a high level against. I mean, they're still one of the premier teams in the National Football League. I know they're losing 2 coordinators, but I've got so much respect for Dan Campbell and the job he's done. I think when you look at Detroit, they've totally taken on his personality.
Right.
You know, you're going to get a tough ass team, and they're gonna try to punch you in the mouth for 60 minutes.
A little bit going into some of his preparation and how much time he spends.
Do you ever get, and a little more here into your preparation, do you ever get time away from watching film? Like, what do you think's the longest stretch of the offseason that you get without having to sit down and break some film down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to get too far away from it. Even when we'll have roughly, 4 to 5 weeks off in the summertime where you'll see the best version of me at my lake house. But even then, you got your iPad with you, and there's a lot of downtime, so you don't want to get too far away from it. So I think you just sprinkle it in throughout the course of that downtime.
Right. So there's never a time where it's too far off your radar. It's always hanging and hovering around there.
Absolutely. You have to if you want to be as good as you can be, and you also know, especially some of the guys I've worked around, whether it's Sean and Kyle, and you know how they attack the game, and they're always thinking about the game of football and how they can make their teams better. And I think that goes for most coaches in our league.
Who taught you? Like, I read an article earlier today about Caleb Williams talking about, like, I've never really had anybody teach me how to watch film. You'll probably see it later on today as you get a chance to relax. But you, in your younger years, who taught you how to watch film and how to break down a team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't. I think just being around the sport, you kind of naturally pick it up. I mean, I'm sure it's much like you with your dad. Being as successful as he was and just growing up around the game, you kind of get drawn into it, and then obviously those developmental years when you're done playing and you become a grad assistant and you're learning certain things to look for. I was fortunate. I worked 2 years for Brian Kelly at Central Michigan, and then I would say got a chance to kind of cut my teeth at 2 Division II schools where the spotlight's not too bright, and then going to Houston and being around Kyle, and he's had as much influence on my career as anybody in this game.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go with this. So you would say you've been with McVay, you've been with Shanahan, you've been with Vrabel, you've been with the older Shanahan too. But when it's all said and done, you feel like Kyle's probably been the biggest influence on you and what you do on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, don't get me wrong. You take
Right.
a lot from each guy.
Right.
And I mean, even guys like Dan Quinn, I know he's a defensive guy, but still, I think a lot of the things that we do culturally would go back to a guy like DQ and just the environment that he created in Atlanta. But I think Kyle was instrumental when you have, myself, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, all in the same room. So I think he kind of taught all of us at some level. And then obviously you go off and get to do it yourself a little bit. But I think the core principles are a lot of the foundation that we learned come from him and his father, Mike.
Right. And like when you go to let me find creative ideas, right? I've had this conversation with Kyle, Sean Payton, stealing plays, copycat league. Do you usually go right to, your old buddies and go, let me see what McVay or Kyle or McDaniel are doing? Is there something interesting I can steal from them because I know how they teach it? Is that the first place you go to?
I would say so. I think, yeah, you're always kind of keeping track of the guys that you've been around in this game, but certainly there's a lot of other great systems out there. I mean, shoot, watching Detroit almost on a weekly basis, there's a lot of core principles that you would take from them. Kevin O'Connell, who's kind of grown up around Sean as well. So just within our division, there's a lot of you're always trying to steal the things that work, and you think that fit within the scheme of your offense.
Right, right. Now, like, give me a little bit, if you don't mind, like one thing you take from Kyle, one thing you take from McVay, one thing you took from Vrabel, right? That, you kind of mentioned Dan Quinn and culture, but I'm sure there's something, like you said earlier, that you stole from all of them. What is that, if you don't mind explaining?
Yeah, I would say one thing that Kyle always wanted to do was the influence of motion, and how it, number one, it hides a lot of the things that you might want to run a repeated play or scheme or concept, and you're going to dress it up, and just the different advantages that you can gain throughout running motions, whether it's leverages on run plays or it's allowing wide receivers free releases off the line, how it can manipulate a defense. I would say that was a big thing. I think Sean was great being around him. He always wanted to present like a similar look and have plays off of plays.
Right.
So that was obviously a big influence. Vrabel's just a defensive guy, but he'll tell you he's an offensive guy. But no, one thing I loved about Mike, he was always going to hold the best players to the highest standard. And I think that's important. If you want to be your best, those guys got to go out there and they got to compete at a high level every time they touch the grass.
So kind of just let that play out because it all kind of went together, and I kind of liked all of it. Couple of personal takeaways. The first thing right at the beginning, talking about the amount of time that they dedicate, which I appreciate, and you always want to hear that from your coach, because I'm sure coaches, just like players, just like GMs, just like anybody else, can fall into the trap of just doing the bare minimum. And it takes a special kind of person to say, I know that this is what's required of me. I'm going to do the maximum and not the minimum, because I want the ultimate goal as opposed to I want a job. I want the paycheck. I also like that from the standpoint of, like I've said with players, this is what he said is the expectation we have for our coach. We should have the same expectation for the players. I don't know why sometimes players get a pass where it's like, well, what's the big deal? It's not required. It's not. Okay. It's not required for Matt LaFleur to watch film while he's on vacation or when he goes home, or really ever. He's the coach. He can do whatever he wants. So, not sure that's the best standard. The other thing I like, and it's not that we don't know this, but it's cool to hear, is I think sometimes we look at Matt LaFleur as being like this one-dimensional. He's a young guy that's pretty smart with like offensive schemes or whatever. He is one of the more well-rounded coaches who's had one of the best coaching educations that any human being could have. I mean, all those guys, Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel, they all followed similar paths. There was a little bit of a divergence there when Matt went with, where did he go? It doesn't matter. I don't want to relive that whole thing, but rehash it. But he has been around some of the absolute best of the best. And yeah, there are little things like, from some defensive coaches and guys that are culture guys. It's not like he's been so isolated that he's been, working with a couple different smart offensive people, and he just happens to be super smart as far as being an offensive mind, et cetera, et cetera. He is that. But he's also spent years, decades around some of the best culture guys and everything else. So, whether or not he personally is the best, everybody's got their specialty. But he's not completely inept in these areas, at least as far as what needs to happen. Whether he can provide it, he needs to find somebody that can provide it. Knowing what needs to happen is something that he is well-versed in. Here's a little bit more about Jordan Love. I kind of referenced this already. I think I was talking about it without having played this little clip, so now everybody will be on the same page. But just a little bit as far as Jordan Love, what needs to happen, and maybe a little tiny insight into, again, the injury possibly causing some issues last year.
A little bit more now into like your own team. I'm just to take a turn there, and especially your quarterback, Jordan Love, right? How do you balance, or where do you start, like how much you can stack on Jordan Love's plate every year? How do you balance that?
Well, I personally, to watch his growth and development over the course of these years has been amazing, because there's a learning curve for each quarterback that comes in this league, for every player, but certainly the quarterback position is going to get a lot of attention, especially when you talk about a first-round guy. But to see him mature, not only as a football player, but as a man and his capabilities, I personally don't think there's anything he cannot handle. To watch the growth of his ownership of whether it's in our protection schemes. I mean, he's as good as anybody that I've been around, and I've been around, being around a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I think he learned so much from that situation, in terms of just how important that is to his ability to go out there and play at an elite level. And then I think he's only scratching the surface personally, and he's working really hard. And obviously, you got to have great play around these guys. The football's a game where I always tell our team it's the ultimate team sport. It takes all 11 on every play, and you're only as good as the people around you. So, but I think, I feel really good about the way our guys are attacking the offseason, how they've shown progress, how they're kind of coming together as a squad. And certainly it's all fun and games right now because there's no real adversity. That's when you find out a lot about yourself is in those adverse times.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jordan Love, I think, he would say it, you would say it. He missed some plays, maybe didn't play his absolute best last year at moments. Maybe it was the injury, whatever else. But I know at the end of the year, you said, like, absolutely he can do better and absolutely you can help him out, right? So off of that, like, what do you specifically do to coax the best Jordan Love version of himself?
I just think it all comes back down to just him understanding the intent of why we're calling every play. And that's what a lot of our time in the offseason is dedicated to, is like, hey, why are we calling this? What are we looking for? What happens if we don't get the premier looks? Where are we going to go with the ball? I mean, there was some situations last year, I think, that we didn't see a ton of two-man, but there was a couple games where we got two-man and you got a crap play called for that. It's like, hey, what is your answer to that? And it might be, well, I got to try to find an exit angle and then take off and run.
Right.
And I do think that just everything he went through last year, it kind of limited some of his ability to make, maybe whether it's an off-schedule play or using his legs to really attack a defense.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like that. It felt like a year where there was moments of like, ooh, that was the Jordan Love we saw at the end of the year 2 years ago. But it felt like there was some plays and throws missed on the field, right? So, like, how do you coach a guy like that a little bit, and like, what do you get into when you go, hey, wait, you made the right read, it was the right decision, all of that, but it just wasn't the appropriate throw, or you didn't put the ball in the right spot. Where do you go with that in your teaching of Jordan Love?
Yeah, well, you always go right back to the mechanics and making sure that the footwork is the footwork that we're teaching and training and doing every day. And then I think a balance on the throws is absolutely critical. Not that these guys can't make off-platform throws. Certainly they're very talented, but the more balanced you are, I'm a big believer, the more accurate you're going to be. So it's just finding that balance. It's doing a lot of drill work that kind of tries to recreate some of those situations that you can get yourself in. And then certainly, just the guys around him have got to be better too. There were some situations where we might have had something down the field, and if we don't make a block or we put the ball in the right spot, guys got to make the plays and they got to come down with the ball. And so many times the quarterback is going to get an unfair amount of praise when things are going right, and they're going to shoulder the blame when things don't go right. So, I just think it's a cumulative effect on everybody. We all got to be a little bit better.
I hear that. And, speaking of the all, I talked to Josh Jacobs at the Super Bowl, and he was like kind of vocal on our show about, we need a number one receiver. That's what he said. Right. And I'm sure you probably heard about it secondhand or whatever, but like, I heard about it. Yeah. What's your reaction when you hear like, hey, my starting running back's talking about, GM moves and what we need for the football team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily. I love Josh, and I love what he's brought to this football team. He's an absolute stud of a player, stud of a human, great leader for us. You can always count on him that he's going to be at his best, and he does it every day he's in the building in terms of just how he attacks the day. But I do think I always look at the totality of that room. It's kind of like, and I think I learned this probably from Kyle as well, is just it's like a basketball squad, and you want guys that can do different things. And again, certainly there's a lot of things as a coaching staff that we can do better to put these guys in better positions. But I think ultimately it's about the collection of the group. I love our group. I think they're competing. I think they're going to have, I think hopefully they surprise a lot of people, because I think they're a competitive group. I always love the effort they give on every play. You can always count on them doing the dirty work. They're going to dig out safeties. They're going to make tough blocks. They might sift off the edge, do whatever you ask them to do. And I think I always put it back on us as coaches. We got to do a better job of putting them in position to make plays.
Yeah, well, that's big of you. That definitely is. Sometimes they got to throw it right and catch it right too, and that's where I'll stick up for you in that department as well. But
all right, so a little bonus there with the Josh Jacobs saga, I guess. But it's pretty clear that when we break down what went wrong last year, I think we know the components. There is an element of fundamentals breaking down. Kind of two parts to that. Number one is pulling an Aaron Rodgers, where we get out of the system. We need to get back to understanding the purpose of the play. Why are we doing what we're doing? You cannot get into backyard football stuff. Number two would be footwork. Every freaking pass cannot be off the back foot. We can't pretend that you have pressure in your face all the time. Oh, there's pressure. No, there wasn't. Stop it. You just wanted to do that. I don't know why. You have a habit. It's a terrible habit. Stop doing that. But fundamentals are going to be critical. Number two is injury. I think that might have been a little bit more minor than some people are making it out to be, but it's certainly an issue. And then the other is the ancillaries. It's all the stuff around it. Got to block, got to catch, got to call good plays. But I do think the fundamentals thing is going to be the biggest thing going forward. And hopefully, whether the back foot thing is also part of the injury where he didn't want to step into his throws, I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe. It's not like this was a new thing. It just seemed to happen a little bit more frequently. So hopefully there's sort of a let's calm down, back to basics. I'll be excited to watch OTAs and just watching him step into some throws and throw some freaking rocket balls. That'll be some exciting stuff. All right, let's take a break. This is just about done. We'll finish this up, and then with the time we have left, we'll jump over to some other interviews and whatnot. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
You take Matthew Golden, right? What separated him a little bit in the first round? You take him in the 20s there, but what separated him from some of the guys you were considering at the wide receiver position?
Well, I mean, not too many guys are running in the 4.2s, so I think that's a big separator right there. I think just when you look at and you go back and study him when he was at Houston, then he obviously transfers to Texas. And I think this guy's got big upside, and he hasn't done anything yet, and we got to go out there and prove it. But we had him in for a 30 visit. He was very impressive on his 30th visit. The game of football is important to him. Right. And that's one of the things you're always trying to figure out of all these players is just how important is this game to them? Because I think that's how you get guys to reach their full potential, is if guys truly love the game of football and the process that it takes to be at your best.
Right. It seems like that's more of the process this year. I don't know if it's because of the NIL and the money that college players are getting, but I feel like I heard things like you just said right there. Love of the game. He's a junkie. It seems like that's, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, more valued now more than maybe it was 20 years ago in the NFL.
Well, I think it's always been valued, but I think just there's other motivators now. Obviously, these guys are getting broke off in college football, and it's one of the first things I told our rookies. What's the difference between college football and the National Football League now? I mean, a lot of these guys have been getting paid, and I was like, hey, there is no portal. So if you don't like your position on this team, you better work harder to elevate. So it's undeniable.
Right. All right. So off of that, you draft Savion Williams. I'm probably messing up his name a little bit in the third round there.
Savion.
Right, Savion. There we go.
Got confirmation right there. Savion Williams. Boom.
From TCU. But then the management of players, and this is the thing that I don't think the public always realizes how much head coaches got to deal with. So you draft 2 receivers and you go, hey, our team's going to be better. But almost instantly you have a receiver on your team and Jaden Reed, who I love and I know you love too, but is like, hey, what's this mean for me? Am I getting pushed to the side? How do you deal with some of that and those conversations and player management, altogether?
Well, I got to say that the first time I saw that, it was a surprise to me because he never once said a word to me. So that's all I can really speak on.
That part I found very interesting. And maybe Matt LaFleur just is not really aware of the situation. He just caught wind of it secondhand and was like, well, that's freaking weird, kind of like the way we are. But it is odd to me, assuming that isn't the case, that he didn't just shoot it down. Like, I think that got taken out of context or whatever. He's like, that was kind of shocking that he did that and, didn't come talk to me about it. So I thought that was not the answer I was expecting.
But certainly you have communication with all our guys, and I tell them all the time, it's about the collection of that whole room and what you're going to bring to the table. And he's a guy he's had 2 years of a lot of production for us. So just my encouragement to him is continue to lead that room because he's done a great job of that. And he's one of the guys out there. He's out there the other day at practice or when we're doing some of our drills, and he's coaching up Matthew Golden. So he's a guy I don't worry about. He's going to go out there. He's going to compete. He's going to compete at a high level, and he's going to bring up everybody around him as well.
Is the managing of players...
That obviously goes without saying, but it is pretty great to hear because you always wonder how deep this is. First of all, is it even real, this whole thing, or is it kind of just a blown-up media narrative thing? But then also, has he got a chip on his shoulder? Is he angry? Is he hostile? Like, what exactly is going on? And it's been great to hear that he's been apparently very good with the receivers on the team so far.
And the personalities, kind of the unspoken, annoyance for a lot of coaches in football. Because I mean, I know you well enough. You want to coach football. You want to get in the playbook. You want to teach the team that. You want to get detailed in that. But I'm always told by other coaches, it's like every time I get into that, I got to put out a fire here, or I got to help this out. Do you find that to be a struggle as a head coach?
Well, I just think you got to be open and honest with everybody in your team, and I think you avoid a lot of that. So certainly, I think it is not always the easiest. You got 53 men on your roster. You got another 16 on your practice squad that all have their own hopes and aspirations. But how can they wrap that around the team success? And fortunately, I think Goody and his staff do such a great job of vetting these guys. And bringing in high character people, because at the end of the day, these guys have a choice to buy into the team or to buy into individual success. And we've been really fortunate to get a lot of guys into our building that are all about the team. And I hope that continues.
So we talked about it a lot, but obviously, for me anyways, I've started to appreciate the fact that they do this. I always used to hate it. Oh, we're bringing in high character. Even when they hired Matt LaFleur, he's the right kind of like this, that, or the other. And then they asked him like, yeah, Tennessee sucked last year. Does that bother you? Like, what? I don't know what you're asking. He's a good person and we like his character and he's a guy that we think we can get along with. Yeah, okay. But the question was about the fact that Tennessee's offense sucked, and you seem to not even know why somebody would want to know. Do you have any qualifications on how good he can make the offense? Like, I'm just confused. It is funny when they kind of sidestep that, and that's what always used to annoy me. And I'm sure it's, obviously that's a major component in all of this. But you'd ask him stuff, and it'd be like, so what do you like about this Bill Stevenson that you drafted? And they're like, oh, great, tough kid, high character, gonna fit in great with their locker room. Like, yeah. Any thoughts on his play? Like, well, I mean, we'll see. We got to get him in. You never know. Who knows? Who freaking knows? These guys, it's a crapshoot, man. But no, real high character kid, and comes from a good family and great. He's got good, strong teeth. We like that. What the heck is happening here? But again, could certainly see how things could spiral out of control. Wait, was Rodgers just on Joe Rogan? I'm just going through, my computer just went straight to hell. So I spent the last 20 minutes. I'm so happy, by the way, that the audio saved. Thank you, Audacity, for auto-saving a bunch of stuff. But I'm on YouTube, and I'm like, all right, I got to find all the stupid freaking videos again. And I'm looking, and I'm like, why does that look like Aaron Rodgers on Joe Rogan? Yeah, 2 hours ago, Joe Rogan, Aaron Rodgers. Okie dokie, then. We'll be digging into that a little bit. Actually, let me see if I'm just curious if there's anything. Probably not. They're probably talking about the stars and how they align and all kinds of crazy hallucinogenics. But maybe Joe Rogan asks him about the Steelers. I doubt he even has any idea what's going on. I don't think Joe Rogan's a big NFL guy. Could be wrong. I don't know. I just want to see if there's any breaking news here. This is hilarious. So I just real quick, hey robot, tell me what some of the stuff they're talking about here. Emerging views on nicotine being good for you, which is hilarious because I just had this. It must be like a new big thing coming out because my wife just called me yesterday and was talking about how some people were making some pretty shocking claims about how maybe we should give nicotine to kids and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know if highly addictive stimulant alkaloids are the best thing to be given to kids. But, whatever. What's the story about the researcher arrested with frog embryos? Is the next topic, apparently. Views on California versus Texas. Observation about Tesla drivers. Questionable government spending. Epstein files, obviously. We got to throw that in there, right? Just cannot stop. I wish they would just release the frickin' thing so we could be done with this. I'm so tired of hearing about it. Same with the JFK files. Like, it's going to be the biggest thing in the world. They did it, and in 5 seconds, they're like, okay, that was stupid. I have a feeling this will be the exact same, so can we just do it and get it over with? Diddy and Johnny Depp trials. So, yeah, not a lot of football content here, it wouldn't appear. How did I know? Back to Epstein. What is the meaning of dank brain? I don't know what that is. Israel. Got to talk about Israel, obviously. Got to talk about COVID. Can't have Rodgers on, not talk about COVID. Hey, some AI talk. Let's go. Seriously, is there one football question? Something about Egypt, Egyptian temple, hieroglyphs. There we go. Now we're getting into the good stuff. What is Zahi Hawass' stance on the ancient Egyptian kings list? Zep Tepi. Let's go. Why isn't modern archaeology investigating anomalies in Egypt? I don't know. Something else that needs to be uncovered. Some mass conspiracy. If only we could uncover the conspiracy. They're everywhere. They're just sitting there. There's all these conspiracies all over the place. Massive scandals and aliens and all these things everywhere. If we could just get one person to tell the truth about all the aliens we have hiding and aliens flying all over the sky. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in the Egyptian temples. And boy, oh boy, if it just wasn't for all the people out there trying to hide it from us, If only we could just have somebody come out and tell us the truth that we know is there, even though there's no evidence, which we know that there's no evidence because it hasn't been released. That's why you want it released, so that you can have evidence, which is why I don't understand why you believe the thing to begin with, but okay. Now we're going off on a thing here. That nicotine thing got me so ticked off yesterday. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with that one, so I'm spiraling a little bit, and I apologize. What's the current state of Bohemian Grove? Oh, jeez, we're still talking about Bohemian Grove. Jackie Gleason UFO story. Yeah, here we go. Area 51, classic. It's where we hide all the aliens and stuff, obviously. Ivermectin. You know what's funny? We went and bought ivermectin not too long ago. We had a little bit of a lice scare with somebody at the kids' school, obviously. Oh, we got the text. Oh, by the way, Jimmy has lice. Freaking great. Went out and bought lice medicine, just right on the front. Just says ivermectin. Apparently it's lice medicine. Criticism of how doctors approach cancer treatment. Yeah, dude, we should just use nicotine patches and whatnot. What is SV40? AstraZeneca. This is all just I just took the first hour, so they're covering some ground here. COVID shot deaths. I guess if you have Rodgers on, it's kind of a. I wonder if Rodgers is getting tired of this. Like, I didn't ask to be talking about this every time I'm on a show. Maybe he loves it. I don't know. Anyways, that's the first hour of the show. It's a 3-hour podcast, I believe. Yeah, 3 hours is how long they do. So I'll check the other couple hours. I'm guessing it's more of the same. I understand that Joe Rogan's got a thing for like interesting out there ideas and whatnot. I just don't know how you have a Hall of Fame quarterback on your show and football doesn't even like get mentioned. Just never thought to bring it up, to be honest. Anyways, let's take a break. I don't think we quite finished the other thing yet. I got super sidetracked by my computer getting shut down. We'll come back and finish that, and we'll see where that leaves us. We might just finish going through some more Joe Rogan stuff because that's pretty hilarious. I don't think I want to actually play any of it, but just reading the questions is funny to me. Not saying some of it might not be true, but it's just getting kind of stupid after all these years, and it's like, guys, you talk about crazy stuff all the time, and when can I see something happen?
Well, there's this video of a plane disappearing.
Okay. All right. Great. Any aliens or alien ships or nothing? Okay. They're hiding it from us. Just like they're trying to hide nicotine from us, even though it's freaking an over-the-counter, FDA-approved medicine. Nicotine patches and nicotine gum. But okay. Government's trying to keep it a secret, I guess. I swear. I'm sorry. All right. I'll take a break. We'll be right back. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, that does get brought up with Matt LaFleur.
All right, let's say that a former quarterback from the Packers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What will your reaction be?
Well, I'm anticipating that happening.
Yes,
so
right.
I won't be surprised.
You won't be surprised, right?
No, we'll see. I just can't see him not playing the game of football this year, and that obviously makes the most sense. I know that just in our discussions over the years, he's a guy that he's had as much respect for as anybody, as a guy like Mike Tomlin. So I could certainly see that coming to fruition here pretty shortly.
What will you remember most, right, about the Rodgers years? And I was going to ask you when you were talking about Shanahan and McVay, but just here as a player, what was it like being around him, and what did you learn from being around one of the all-time greats at quarterback?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin with that, because you learn so much going through it together. To be honest with you, and
my bad.
I think you can't discount a guy of his talent, his experiences, and just the way he thinks about the game. So there's been a lot of things that quite honestly he's helped shape some of my beliefs in terms of how I look at offensive football as well. So I thought it was a great partnership. Certainly there were some moments of struggle in there, but I think anything that when you have people that are convicted about what they're doing and are passionate and care, I mean, it's usually for the betterment of the team. And I think that's what we kind of helped each other in that regard.
Yeah, no, that was a hell of a run. I don't know what anybody else could be saying. I mean, damn, MVPs, NFC championship games, you were damn good. It ain't that easy to win a Super Bowl. I mean, people act like it's just like picking a cherry off the tree or something there. All right, but you got the Steelers week 8 at Pittsburgh. Who's got the advantage there? You know more about him, or are you going to have to change some signals and some audibles on your side of the ball because you're going to be scared he's telling the Pittsburgh Steelers defense everything?
Well, he can tell them, but who knows? It could be a double move off that signal. You just never know. So
okay.
You got to be careful.
You're right about that. You're right. I used to like every now and then when somebody knew my checks, because you could play with them a little bit, give fake signals, do that. But something I guess you'll certainly be aware of with him on the other sideline.
He's one of the best at doing it, so he better be careful.
Yeah. I didn't realize he's so good at that. Is he? I had been told by some people, and I just interested to hear your experience, because I'd always heard Peyton Manning was the best at stealing the other team's signals. He was all about that. But was Rodgers like that too, where he'd get in a game and he'd be like, "Oh, I know what the cover 2 signal is, or I know what cover 6 is for them now."
Oh yeah, you got to be careful communicating, because he picks up everything, and I haven't been around too many guys that can focus. I swear he can focus on like 3 things at once and take it all in. It's pretty impressive when you watch it.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate you hanging out with me a little bit, coming on Chris Sims Unbuttoned. We always root for the Packers here. We like Jordan Love, that's for sure. Big fan of yours, man. And seriously, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out. I really appreciate it. And best of luck going forward, Matt.
Hey, that's all right.
I
That's
called
my
you
brother's
Mike.
name. It's all good. It's all good. Hey, thanks for having
That's enough of that. Okie doke. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think I'm going to do what I usually do here. I don't think I'm leaving quite enough space here for the discussion with Kay Adams. Is her name, I believe? Kay? Is it Kay? It's Adams. I know that. I think it's Kay. Yes, Kay Adams. So I'm going to hold that in my back pocket. We're already at 40 minutes or so. I'm going to do it. I'm going to read off topics discussed between Rogan and Rodgers. This is starting in hour 2. Conspiracy theorists versus mainstream media credibility. This obviously goes back to the discussion that was had between, I don't know, Joe Rogan's buddy and the journalist guy. Nanobots and other rumored additives in COVID vaccines. Good old nanobots. Bunch more COVID stuff. Natural immunity, diet, and overall health's role in disease resistance. Medical industry incentives, which is a discussion that I despise. I understand human being incentives exist, but we get in these weird... I talk about this with the NFL all the time, where it's like, because there is incentive, it must happen. Because I can see a reason why somebody would do it, it is happening. Because I could see why the NFL would rig the NFL, they did rig the NFL. Because I can see a profit motive, then obviously we're allowing like children to die of cancer. Obviously. Because everyone in the world except me is massively evil. Okay, fair enough. Water-powered car inventors' suspicious death. Stuff like this makes me so crazy. So somebody invented a water-powered car, and nobody in the world else can figure out how to do it except this guy. And then when, big automotive, is that what we're calling it now? Anytime something's evil, you just put big in front of it, and then you can assume that it's just this evil entity. Big Automotive had him murdered because they make money off of gas cars and couldn't figure out how to make money off of water cars, right? Or was it the petroleum lobby, which is why they're having like Elon Musk murdered for building electric cars? Is that correct? Or stupid crap, dude. Olympic athlete compensation. Hey, you're talking a little sports here. Doping scandals and Cold War sports politics. Okay. Role of USADA in enhanced games, steroid-friendly competition. I'm all about that. I'll check that out. Netflix versus pay-per-view for combat sports. How do you pronounce Qatar is a question. Canadian politics. UFO disclosure and government secrecy again. There you go. No football yet, boys and girls, but it's coming. Difficulty understanding regional English accents like Belfast. Oh, is that like Paddy Pimblett? Is that Belfast? That is a glorious accent. I'll tell you what. That is a thing of beauty. The Scouser thing, I think it is. Just beautiful. Anecdote about getting drunk with a local in Northern Ireland. Well done. Hopefully that was Rodgers' anecdote. How celebrity status changes hanging out with locals. I'm sure that's a challenge. Theo Von's recent Nashville altercation. I did see that. Choked a dude, kind of. Not like in a normal way, just kind of like, I'm going to wrap my hand around your throat and push you, kind of a weird thing. Jiu-jitsu training, makes sense. Communication barriers and side eyes from blue-haired strangers. All right. Politics. Golf. Okay. Again, sport. So, no groundbreaking news here. That was all 3 hours, essentially. I'm not going to lie, that some of that is interesting enough I might want to listen to it, but different things for different reasons. I'm certainly interested in Aaron Rodgers' take on some of these things. Hopefully he's dismissive of at least a couple of them. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that cracks me up, man. I thought we could get some. I thought we'd get something. I thought we'd get a little, what's going on over there with Pittsburgh, man? You going to be working soon, or you got? They just jumped right into nicotine pouches Is there fiberglass in them? Which, by the way, is a rumor that I thought was true when I was in college and using those. I thought they put fiberglass in those things and it cut your lip and that put the nicotine in faster or something. I don't know. Don't know. But anyways, I will leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll do maybe some K Adams tomorrow. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.